Alex Hormozi published this live stream, I think 3 days ago, and it was I made 35.4 million views last month. Here's how. Copy me.
Mm.
So I tuned into this stream because I was very, very interested in just what the whole strategy was.
Yeah.
He's obviously trying a different brand of content, found a lot of great success with the live stream of the book
Absolutely.
launch. So I imagine he's like, okay, why don't we try doing some like live stuff? And I think really what he's doing is he's just moving up the authenticity ladder where it's just like, okay, so like, engaging with my audience is obviously like the most authentic thing that I could be doing because it's like top of mind and, people hear me for me. They don't hear me doing scripted stuff. So he's really standing out. And, his ability to articulate is second to none when it comes to business concepts. So in addition to the live stream, he also did like a viewer Q&A section where he took calls from viewers. Then he did Q&A through the, through the actual chat itself. And so as somebody that like, has popularized a big chunk of the QA, especially over the last like year, I'm thinking like, God damn it, Alex. Like, what the hell, man? But anyway, unrelated. Dude, so, this made me really interested in seeing how many views I've gotten in the last 30 days. So I did the math and I realized that we had 8.5 million views in the last 30 days.
Wow, bro. That is incredible.
So this big guy had 35 million views and I had 8.5 million. That's approximately a quarter.
Damn.
Keep in mind that most of his views are probably short form as well. Whereas, like most of mine are short form, to be clear. But I think like even more of his proportionally are short form, which are just easier, cheaper views to get. So I was like, dude, I'm making a quarter of the views of this guy. Like obviously the audience is very different. And that made me, it took me to like a very important thing. The 35 million views that he gets in 30 days really is not actually that impressive. It seems impressive. It does. But it's not. What's really impressive, it's his 35 million views and every one of those views is like a business owner. And that's what's impressive. Every one of those views, like the RPM basically, is ridiculously high because every one of those views is generally somebody who is already pre-convinced that spending money to make more money is like the way to grow.
Dude, this is so okay. I have like a million things I need to say off what you've just said. I did a video on I turned the $100 million offers into AI systems. So I just took the book. I thought, let me just AIify this. I was checking out my CPM, dude. There was a fucking spike on that video. Like the average like pound per like 1,000 views almost went up like 50% when I did that Hormozi video. Yeah, I'll see if I can pull up the screenshot in a second. The other thing, by the way, you're right on business owners, but one I noticed as well before we go into the live stream thing. He started doing content again on relationships and health, right? That classic triad, health, wealth, and relationships. I also checked out some of the other influencers in the space, like Dan Martell, and I was like, Gary, they're all doing content on relationships, which is absolutely nothing to do with their core product. And they're doing that because that's what people are interested in. That it's more of an, I wonder if it's this kind of attention play that you get to kind of just get more eyeballs and visuality. Because if you remember, and Alex was talking about like as a case study here, he used to do like the Hormozis, which is, kind of Kardashian type route, like the lifestyles, our relationship and all this sort of stuff. He pivoted because he was like, views went through the roof, but they weren't buying our stuff. Now he's integrating that kind of relationship style content, not in long form, what I can see, but short form. And I think it's to do with view access and just touching and reaching new audiences, where it's almost like I need to reach as many eyeballs as humanly possible and maximize my distribution.
All right, I got kind of a crazy conspiracy theory.
Oh, dude, okay, I need to hear it. Tell me, what is it?
Well, with AI coming to the fore, like a lot of service-based businesses are being automated, right? And so I think there's a question of like, what is the place of a big chunk of our economy in a future where AI models can do everything a human being can do, but, a million times faster? And it's like, what becomes the value of a human being, really? And it's really just like the space of relationships. So I wonder if any of this has to do with that, with just like shifting kind of values in the mimetic landscape away from just like, capital generation and towards, like relationships. I wonder if that has anything to do with this. I'm not saying that they're all explicitly aware of it, but just like pressures in views and like what people find interesting and people being like, well, fuck it, AI is going to automate my damn job anyway. The thing that I really care about are the relationships that I hold, how valuable I am to people that are around me. I wonder.
That's a great question. And the other thing I think as well is you can over optimize in a vacuum. Like it's very easy to look at what Alex does and copy it. what's easy to miss here is that Alex is looking at the next level up, which is the Olden podcast, Joe Rogan experience, what happened with the presidential election and where attention flows. So I think a lot of the time, back yourself, like you're smart, like thinking, because you're a big proponent as well, bro, is thinking from first principles up is freaking huge. And sometimes actually you can over-index in a vacuum if you just look at one creator. So I think it's worth actually thinking about that. And I do believe that there is an eyeball play. There's definitely a branding thing. And like to the point where like, if you look at a lot of the creators, they always wear the same clothes every single freaking time. Every single thumbnail, they're wearing the exact same color. It's not by design. It's just due to consistency and branding. Because I realized that when you're at that level of eyeballs, the consistency really makes a huge difference. On the live stream thing as well, what's really interesting, you're right, it's an authenticity play. And I think he crushed it so much with the big stream that he just did that. And that's why I'm really excited for our streaming stuff, bro, because candidly, I think that's something that we do well is, you know, I can riff, you can riff for hours unprompted about whatever. And I think that's a cool thing. And I think that's a blessing. And I don't think necessarily everyone can do that. And I think if you can do that, you should lean into it. And if you can't, you've got a different asset and different strength that other people don't have. And I think there is something about playing to your strengths a little bit that like Alex can riff. So again, I think it's a learnable skill, 100%. But it's an undeniable authenticity play, and it obviously has a good ROI. Because like I even started watching it, and I was like, would I have watched one of his? I haven't really watched that many of his other videos recently, but I watched that one because it was live and authentic.
Do you know if the other guys that are big in this space are doing things like that as well? You mentioned Dan Martell.
Yeah, what's he doing?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Like, is he doing live streams and stuff like that?
Not to my knowledge. I think
like the way that I see live streams are like, you know, probably a little bit higher perceived value, but then they're much higher risk associated with it. Like if you just really absolutely shit the bed on a live stream or something, I'm sure you've probably had. I've had some community calls where I'm just like not there that day. I shit the bed completely. As in somebody asks me a question that realistically I would be able to help and answer, then I'm just like and I don't actually like make a point.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's like high risk on the back end because anybody that like has, you know, a good head on their shoulders will look at them and be like, what the hell's Nick talking about? But, you know, the perceived upside is a lot lower. So I wonder.
I think that's the price of admission is the thing is you can be perfect and small or authentic and large. But I think part of the price of authenticity is the fact that you'll say things that ruffle feathers and you'll be wrong. Like I do think there is a cap on your size if you do want to bridge both sides and sit on the fence. I think at some point you've almost got to make your bet and say, look, I do appreciate that this is only popular with 20% of the audience, and I'm completely okay with that. And I'm also happy to accept the criticism for the 80%.
Yeah, like making political gaffes and whatever. I was thinking too that like, isn't it interesting? You're talking about attention flows, that any sufficiently advanced brand becomes indistinguishable from like a political brand. Like the bigger and bigger and bigger that they get, you know, attention flows and stuff like that. They end up usually taking sides in political debates and stuff like that. They end up being more inflammatory. They end up like taking stands and so on and so forth. And the reason why is because they, they just know that that's like probably a straight line path to attention. And, you know, obviously at some level they're principled and they believe that what they're saying is right and so on and so forth. But I find that interesting.
It is cool.
Elon Musk and his tweet storms.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. Well, it's funny because you could cut your audience in half a little bit, but you're probably, the other half are going to love you twice as much. And one half's going to love you twice as much. Well, I hope not. I'd like to think that people recognize that people are nuanced and they have different point of views and perspectives on things and can make a nice view about things.
Oh, yeah. Nuance, huh? That's one thing the internet's known for.
The world that we live in. That is the world that we live in. So, dude, I think all that to say, like, the live stream is key. Yeah, I think it's a good authentic play. I think one thing I'm looking at is like content distribution, that you're probably like minutes spent creating content is probably like a good metric to optimize for, actually. And it's one of those sneaky ones where you can probably not do as much as you think you're doing unless you track it.
Yeah.